Welcome back to Social 7 Skills. In our last lesson, we introduced the idea that your mind runs on a hidden operating system. We talked about how emotional hijacks can cause that system to crash. Today, we're going to open up the hard drive and take a close look at the source code. This source code is made up of the stories you use to navigate every moment of your life. These stories are a mosaic of your life experiences, your beliefs, and your deepest emotions. They are shaped by your upbringing, your education, and social pressures. They form the very meaning you attach to each moment and how you define your own identity. The question is, have you ever stopped to actually read the code you're running on? That brings us to the problem. Most of us operate on autopilot, running on an operating system full of unexamined stories and outdated beliefs. We react to situations without fully understanding why we feel a certain way. This can create a significant gap between our perception of ourselves and reality. This lack of self-awareness leads to real-world consequences. For example, it can manifest as underconfidence, causing us to shy away from opportunities that could lead to success because we fear failure or embarrassment. We miss out on adventures not taken and a life unlived. In the workplace, it can prevent us from being effective leaders because if you don't understand how your own personality and habits affect your interactions with others, you cannot build the trust necessary to lead a team. The solution is cultivating self-awareness. This is the first and most important upgrade to your operating system. So what is it exactly? Self-awareness is your ability to focus on how your emotions, thoughts, and actions align with your mental and emotional state. Let me say that again. Self-awareness is your ability to focus on how your emotions, thoughts, and actions align with your mental and emotional state. It's a learned skill that allows you to recognize your strengths and weaknesses, understand your needs, and see how your behavior truly affects others. The benefits of this skill are immense. It provides greater self-control, increases empathy, improves critical thinking, and enhances leadership skills. The ultimate promise of self-awareness is authenticity. Authenticity includes psychological maturity and a healthy, non-defensive approach to life. Let's look at the contrast between authentic and inauthentic people. Truly authentic people have realistic perceptions of the world around them. They are accepting of themselves and others. They are open to learning from their mistakes, and they understand their own motivations. Inauthentic people, on the other hand, are often self-deceptive. They seek approval from others. They're judgmental, and they simply don't understand what makes themselves tick. Authenticity is often revealed in what we call character-defining moments. These are spontaneous, unscripted situations that provide a dazzling glimpse into what a person is truly made of. Because these moments are not planned, they carry credibility and are foundational for building trust. By becoming more self-aware, you prepare yourself to act with authenticity when these moments arise. Cultivating self-awareness is the direct path to becoming a more authentic and effective person, which is the foundation for building trust in all of your relationships. So how do we begin this journey of self-discovery? It's an ongoing process, but there are three crucial key steps you can take to install this critical upgrade. First, question your stories. Remember, your amygdala's primary purpose is to keep you safe, even if that means distorting your perception of reality. To become more self-aware, you must have the courage to question the stories you live by. Instead of accepting your initial interpretation of a situation, get curious. Ask questions. Ask yourself clarifying questions like, might there be some good that I'm overlooking here? And get used to saying, tell me more. Second, seek honest feedback. One of the most powerful ways to increase self-awareness is to simply find a mentor or a trusted colleague who can offer honest and constructive feedback about your actions. When you're open to hearing how others perceive you, you gain deeper insights into your blind spots and areas for improvement. And third, use a practical tool for self-assessment. To make this process less abstract, we can use a powerful tool that businesses use for strategic planning. It's called a personal SWOT analysis. SWOT, S-W-O-T, stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Your strengths and weaknesses are your internal factors. These are your skills, habits, and experiences. Your opportunities and threats are external factors. They are things like market trends, your work culture, or even the influence of your colleagues. Don't let the word threat throw you off. In a SWOT analysis, a threat can be active or passive. A threat is anything that is a hindrance or obstacle that can prevent or slow you down from accomplishing your goals. So let's walk through how to create a personal SWOT analysis for yourself. First, we look inward. These are factors you contribute to a situation. We start with our strengths. This is where you list your positive attributes. Ask yourself the following questions. What are my relevant abilities, skills, and qualifications? Think about your education, your work experience, certifications, and professional connections you have. What are you known for? What do you do better than anyone else? Then we examine our weaknesses. This requires brutal honesty. Ask yourself, what skills do I lack? Where is my knowledge limited? And what personal habits might be impeding my productivity? Recognizing your shortcomings is the first step to improving them. And employers value those who are aware of their limitations and have a plan for growth. In the next two steps in the SWOT analysis, we look outward at the environment around you. What are my opportunities? These are external factors that can benefit you. Ask yourself these questions. Are there trends in my industry that I can take advantage of? Is there a new technology I can use? Is there a need in my company that my skills can fill? And finally, what threats am I facing? These are external factors that could put you at a disadvantage. Ask yourself, is my job market highly competitive? Are there technological shifts that could make my skills obsolete? Does my role have a high turnover rate? Finally, once your 4 squares are filled, you analyze them in order to make an informed decision. The goal is to develop an action plan. Take a good hard look at your self-analysis and ask yourself these questions. How can I use my strengths to seize my opportunities? And how can I improve my weaknesses to minimize my threats? A SWOT analysis transforms simple self-reflection into a concrete strategy for personal and professional growth. Let's bring all of this back to our case study of Maria. Maria is technically brilliant, but her projects are failing because team morale is low. Her lack of self-awareness is at the core of her problem. Her story? She tells herself, I'm just being direct and efficient to get the job done. The reality, her team perceives her as dismissive and uncaring. Because she has never questioned her own story or sought feedback, she is completely unaware of how her behavior is affecting her team. If Maria were to do a personal SWOT analysis, she would easily list efficiency and productivity as strengths. But without seeking feedback, she would be completely blind to a critical weakness. Her abrasive communication style is damaging team morale. This weakness has now become a threat to her project success. By conducting an honest SWOT analysis, Maria could finally see the full picture and create a plan to improve. Now, how about you? For your own reflection, I want you to take the first step in this process. Using the steps we just discussed, identify one item for each of the 4 categories of your own personal SWOT analysis. 1 strength, 1 weakness, 1 opportunity, and 1 threat. Before I go, I want to mention one thing. There is so much information on these topics that we're exploring. There is no way I can cover everything in these videos. That's why I've provided you with additional resources in your lesson. I urge you to look through those, especially the briefing documents. They go into even more detail about the 7 core social skills, plus all of the subtopics. And they give links to source materials so that you can dive in and explore as much as you want. Thank you for watching. In our next lesson, we'll build on this foundation of self-awareness as we explore our second upgrade, self-management. Thanks for joining me as we take a few minutes to consider some of the spiritual implications of self-awareness. When I think about the topic of self-awareness, the word that comes to my mind is humility. That word has gotten a bad rap for a long time. In the minds of a lot of people, humility has to do with being self-effacing, putting yourself down, being a doormat for other people to walk on. But these concepts have nothing to do with true humility. Without using the word itself, there is a verse in the Bible that gives a good explanation of what humility really is. Romans 12:3 says, "Do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment, in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you." Humility is not thinking less of yourself, but rather thinking correctly or properly about yourself. Thinking of yourself with sober judgment. Humility means having correct self-awareness. And notice what the basis or the source of this self-awareness is. It flows from the understanding that God has given us of who we truly are. We need to understand who God says we are. And He says that we are His children, created in His image. When we understand the truth of who we are, which is the state of true humility, it frees us and empowers us to live our lives to the fullest. Why? Because we're living according to the truth. But it's not just the Bible that advocates having a humble attitude. More and more psychologists are understanding the power of humility. In the book Handbook of Humility, edited by Everett Worthington, Don Davis, and Joshua Hook, the authors say that humility is made up of 3 parts. The first part is what we've already said, having an accurate self-perception, seeing ourselves and thinking of ourselves correctly. The second part of true humility is a modest self-portrayal. Humility involves showing restraint in how we present ourselves to other people. And the third part is having what they call an other-oriented relational stance. In other words, we need to think about the needs of others and not just ourselves. This is where we get to the practical application of humility. Like I said at the beginning, true humility is not about being a doormat for other people to walk on. It is about seeing ourselves and other people through the eyes of compassion and empathy. There's another verse in the Bible that speaks directly to this point. Ephesians 4:2 says, "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love." You see, when we develop a proper self-awareness, it enables us to see not only ourselves properly, but also to see other people properly as well. Why? Because true self-awareness leads to true humility. True self-awareness enables me to see that I am no better and no worse than anyone else. We are all part of the great family of mankind. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to exploring these truths even more deeply as we delve into self-management in our next lesson.